Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today we are doing a follow-up basically from last week's video on Slovakia, where I told you the places you should go, the things you should do, and the way to make your visit there a little bit nicer. Well, today I want to tell you about how not to annoy the locals and what not to do when you are there, because so many people, so many tourists, travelers, everybody in between, they'll do one thing, two things. They may just completely annoy everyone for the entire time they're there because of things sometimes that are obvious, but sometimes that are just local cultural things that we may not know about before we go. So I'm going to tell you what they are, and hopefully you can avoid them. So the first thing is kind of an obvious one, but it's still used so much, and that is Slovakia isn't Czechoslovakia. And this sounds obvious and almost silly to say, but you still hear kind of versions of this being said. People that are old enough will think of Czechoslovakia and call it that. Or if they're talking about something that is common to Czechia and Slovakia, like in GeoGuessr, because I've heard this from Zigzag, he will say this looks like a Czechoslovakia region. Deeply insulting. They have different histories beyond a point. So they split from each other. There was one country until 1993, and they split. They have been split now for 30 years. If you go back beyond the Soviet Union, their histories are different as well. Culturally, since then, they have separated more. They both have amazing histories, and they are amazing countries, but they are different. It is deeply insulting to effectively say that split, that move for your own independence never happened, which is effectively what you're doing when you just call it Czechoslovakia. It isn't. It has been 33 years. It's been a long time since that country existed. And to call it Czechoslovakia is just solely insulting. Now, obviously, different people at different ages will find it more or less insulting in Slovakia because some of them can remember the hardships, some of them can't, some of them came after it. But it's best not to mention something like this. And whilst we're talking about that, actually, also, it's not Slovenia. Very different. But people so much that there is such an issue with people mixing up Slovakia and Slovenia that at one point in the 90s, they were getting each other's diplomatic mail. The governments actually had to work together to make sure that each other got the appropriate diplomatic mail. That's insanity that those things could happen. But people still mess them up, and they have a very, very, very different history. They are from different parts of Europe. They have a different cultural background. One of them is next to Italy. It's and a very different interaction with what part of empire came to them, and the other with what part of empire came to them. They are not the same. They don't hold the same cultural history or the same general geographical history. None of it is the same, but people still mix it up. So just be sure that when you go to Slovakia, one, you know you're going to Slovakia. It's not Czechoslovakia, and it's certainly not Slovenia. And just don't show disrespect to talk about them in the past tense or to think, oh, it's just all the same. Because I know that can be the thought of some travelers and some tourists to be like, well, it's all kind of the same. It's not. You don't simply call it one thing for everything there. They do have a difference, and it is deep-seated. Another important one is to not be too noisy. This might seem kind of obvious, but Slovaks don't tend to be that noisy or loud when they're out having a coffee or even when they're having drinks. They speak at a relatively moderate level, and so you're gonna really annoy them if you start shouting with your friends in a coffee shop, in a pub, down the street, as many tourists are known to do. This can get even worse. If at night you're seen as being, drunky, disorderly and loud and everything like that, you're also going to have a hand on your shoulder from the police as well. This can be just a simple point of respect, but it can get you into a lot of trouble as well. So just make sure that you remember you're in somebody else's country, show them some respect, keep the noise levels down. Something else to think about is treating Slovakia like it's the EU's cheap younger brother. And it's something that so many people do, especially from Western Europe, is this idea that, oh, it's going to be really cheap over there, and go over there, get a cheap pint, yeah, get a cheap flight over there, spend a weekend, it'll be fine, yeah, it's, not as expensive as ours, they're going to be so thankful for our money. Well, one, that's massively disrespectful. Two, it's also not true. If you look at Bratislava, for instance, it's one of the richest areas in the European Union by GDP per capita. It's not a poor country by any real metric. There are poor areas like there are anywhere in any country. And if you look at different countries and whether something's cheaper or more expensive, you can do that with basically any country. If I was to go to America, which is more expensive on most things, but go to certain areas of Ohio, I can pick up a house for really, really cheap, cheaper than pretty much every area in the UK. But I wouldn't necessarily call America a poor country. And it's just something that we always do, specifically with countries in Central and Eastern Europe. And Slovakia is not a poor country. It is not somewhere you can just go and get a cheap pint all the time. Is it going to have things that are cheaper than in the UK or wherever you are? Yes, of course it is. But that doesn't mean it's a poor country. There's so much more to the country, so much more culture, history, and everything else that you should be going there for, rather than just finding yourself a cheap pint. Something that comes on from the whole attitude of people treating Slovakia like it's just a cheap getaway is the problem with stag do's. And this is something that so many different countries have had over time, and then it's moved to another country, moved somewhere else. But a lot of the advertising of the idea of a stag do is they are a service country that are just happy to have you there, that all the women are beautiful and they're going to accommodate you in any way, and that it's just basically a resort. That's how it is marketed to a lot of people, and it's not marketed by the Slovakians. Slovakia doesn't market it like that, but for some reason the tourist industry outside of it does, and it will do package holidays and things like that. And so of course people turn up, they treat it like it's the Costa del Sol or the Ibiza or wherever, that they can just get away and have a good time. They get there, they get drunk, they get rowdy, they get into fights, they treat women badly when they're over there, and then wonder why, well, Slovakia wasn't that good, they didn't treat us right. You were treating it like some kind of cheap getaway that had no culture, no history, no people. You treated the individuals there abhorrently, and suddenly they're in the wrong. It's such a weird thing, but stag do's are so bad for this. Specifically, I say stag do's because a lot of the marketing, again, is to this idea that Slovakian women are so beautiful and accommodating to non-Slovakian men. There is a weird thing that has been added into kind of tourist ideas marketed towards stag parties, and it's just disgusting. It's not a great thing for them at all. They would much rather have their own local businesses there without having your stag do's. Going over there isn't really doing them a favour, other than really riling up locals. Obviously this happens more in Bratislava than anywhere else, but the whole idea of stag do's when they're like this is just horrible pretty much wherever it goes. But when you're just going into another city, it's another capital. Yes, it's a small capital, but it's another capital, another country that you're going into, and just treating the entire place like your personal slavish getaway. It's just unacceptable. And I would please say, if you want to go there for a stag do, great. There are things you can do. If your idea is to just have a fun getaway and just behave yourselves, great. That's not to say you can't have a few too many. Everyone has. But if you're going to go out there, you're going to have your stag do. Maybe you're then going to go into the mountains and, You got a few bars that you like the look of. Great. And I'm sure they will welcome you if you treat them properly. And that's kind of the thing with everything and with every country. Treat people with respect, and you'll get the same in response. So if you're going to go out there for a stag do or for whatever, go out there, treat it properly, treat it like another country that you should interact with. You'll have a great time. Just don't show disrespect. Okay, so finally, we have the idea of actually treating the environment properly. This should be something so obvious, because no matter what background you're, I mean, no one was brought up to just throw their litter on the floor for just, oh, yeah, that's done. I've eaten that now. You get told off by your mum, by your dad. Pick it up. So why do people still do it? And this is definitely important in Slovakia. They are very much connected with their environment. I've spoken previously in another video about the Tatras Mountains, for instance, and just beautiful trails, and people just litter and just, throw things down, disrespect it. And it's just such a weird thing to do. I don't understand. There are bins there. You have your own bag, for instance. I don't understand why you would do it, but people do disrespect the environment there so much. The environment is an important part of Slovak life. So if you're going to be interacting with it, treat it like they would. And also, just one thing that isn't as bad, but it can be a bit annoying and irritating to locals, is treating the mountains and areas such as that like it's an Instagram backdrop rather than actual cultural and geographical significance. It creates a natural border with Poland, as I have spoken about before. It is absolutely beautiful to hike along. It has glacial lakes, everything about it. And just going, hi guys, no, okay? And don't get me wrong, I take pictures when I go to places, and I do put some on Instagram, but I don't treat those things as just, I'm in the middle of that, because it's irritating. It doesn't show true respect to the place that you're at, and it's just unnecessary. If you want to take some pictures, take some normal pictures. Show the beauty of where you are to followers that you might have on Instagram, if that's what you're thinking about doing. You don't need to be in the picture. Your mug isn't necessary. Show them the true beauty. Do a panoramic view of the amazing, just rolling clouds that you can see in parts of the Tatras Mountains. Show them the reality, okay? Just show, as I've said for most of this, show respect. Have respect for where you are. Treat the environment like you'd want your own house to be treated, like you'd want your country to be treated, like you'd want you to be treated. The environment is the lifeblood for all of us. For Slovaks, environment is so important. So just be good people. It really isn't hard. And if you do all of these things and make sure that you don't annoy anybody, you don't do these things I've just said, and you don't annoy people, you still just have a laugh when you're out there, have a bit of a laugh and joke, interact with people, take in the culture, take in the history, take in the geography and the surroundings, you have an amazing time. And it's going to be way better than anything you would have had before when you were just shouting loudly, getting drunk and throwing some litter around. I hope you have taken something from that. If you're going to planned to go to Slovakia or not, maybe go somewhere a little bit further afield. Enjoy the environment and enjoy being with people. And always try and pick up a few words, because like many of us, Slovaks do like it if you're going to try with their own language. So, hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks, everyone.